Let's get to some of this boxing, man. We got some topics on a recent former football player. Speaking of USC, a former Trojan who is plying his trade in the world of boxing, a la maybe Seth Mitchell. I don't know if he wants to come after him or not, but we'll talk about him facing Amir Mansour. We also have a discussion on Roman Gonzalez, Chocolito, I believe. I thought yesterday you retweeted an article about Tomas Adamek. I just had a couple of thoughts on him. We'll talk about Fonfera and Nathan Cleverly, and then we'll close things up with the big name, which is this week's big showdown, which may not even be as big as I feel it could be, but that's Triple G facing off against Canada's David Lemieux. But before we get into all of that, you're a huge fan, so I would imagine you're working in, I know with college football and the NFL being back, and underway, I'm imagining that you might be like me and still working in following the Premier Boxing Champions on its 7 or 8 different networks that it's on now. I just wondered, in your perspective, how do you think that this Al Heyman's project, how do you think is it paying dividends as far as raising the level of awareness for the sport, or do you think it's falling short in some areas?
Well, it's an interesting question. It's really polarizing, right? A lot of people hate Heyman. I don't either hate it or love it. I mean, I think it's a great idea with so-so execution so far. You've had some really good matches, right? Thurman Guerrero, I think, was the first main event. You had Garcia Peterson, you had Broner Porter, all quality matchups, regardless of what you thought of what happened in the ring. Quality matchups. Those are HBO level main event kind of fights, right? They were on free TV. You didn't have to have HBO. That's incredible. But the price you pay for that is you got Austin Trout against Joey Hernandez a few weeks back. Vivian Harris, everybody remembers him. He was getting knocked out on television.
That was
Charlo
ugly.
beat up Bundridge and Wilder. Duhaupas was a frightful beating. I mean, Duhaupas was incredibly tough. I'm not taking anything away from him. He was outgunned. He took way too many punches. It was almost like I almost couldn't watch anymore. I thought I might have to change the channel on this. They got to stop this thing. You shouldn't be taking 300 punches from Wilder. That's not good. But that it's the right idea. So they're trying this UFC model, right? Trying to get all of these great fighters in, but they need to match them in a way that's compelling. I think what they're trying to do is they need the casual fan, right? All of us hardcore fans who watched Friday night fights every week are great, a core audience, but there's not enough people for real mainstream, right? Boxing's become more fringe with pay-per-view. Nobody knows who a lot of guys are. When you look at the idea, it's really good. But so I think what they're trying to do is take these mismatches and get people talking like, whoa, did you see that knockout? People who don't understand that it was made to be a horrifying mismatch, but to create buzz, like you go, oh, geez, did you see Austin Trout? Did you see that guy? Man, he knocked that guy's head off. So to try to create that talk, the hardcore fans hate it. But good idea, just needs better execution. I think it's not quite getting what they want to get out of it done, but I think they could if they just would match these guys up better the way they can.
Do you think that some of the poor matchups that have resulted in some of the savage beatings or brutal knockouts, do you think that's to try to appeal to the MMA fan who that's constantly been the criticism is, I don't have time to watch guys dance around with one another for 10 rounds, 12 rounds. Do you think that some of this initial round of fights have really kind of been to appeal to the MMA crowd that might happen to tune into a show and we put this on?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we live in this Twitter instant gratification world. A lot of people can't watch hurt. He's going to, he's going to be hitting a guy with a lead right at the age of 50 and doing things on defense that most people can only dream of, but it doesn't play for a lot of these people. That's not interesting. What is interesting is, seeing a guy you've never heard of like Vivian Harris get absolutely flattened on television, and I think that's the idea: get people talking, get quick hits, for lack of a better term, on these matches. You get some of those flex matches in there, which also tend to be mismatches, and draw in those MMA fans, people who are clicking through the channels, just sports fans who might check it out, and something crazy happens, and then they're into it all of a sudden. I think that's the idea.
That's kind of how I view it. I will say some pretty interesting developments are happening, such as this fight with Quillen and Jacobs that'll be coming up in a few months. To see that kind of develop and, get signed and sealed all in, 20-something minutes was, kind of a breath of fresh air in contrast to when we watched the negotiations between a Mayweather and a Pacquiao that was extremely drawn out, or even just watching some of the, the back and forth with, right now. I know in recent weeks, I believe we've heard some rambling between SOG, Andre Ward, and Triple G's camp. So and then Sergey and Kovalev and Stevenson, so Adonis. So that was a great thing to sit here and see two guys who've been regarded as friends or having a friendlier relationship. Like I said, to just wrap up this great bout that will probably, I don't know if that'll stay on PBC, but I just think that's been one of the better developments. I think it's kind of serving. I think this next round that we're going to see as like these fighters advance, to the second round or their third fight on there. Trout versus J-Rock is an interesting matchup, and that kind of developed over some PBC fights, and then on Twitter, I think. Julie
can do better, and I didn't want to sound overly negative about it because I don't feel that way. There's a lot of good stuff. There's fights on TV something like 4 nights this week.
Right, exactly.
Or one afternoon also, but I'm used to these afternoon fights.
Right. One thing before we move on, you mentioned Wilder. One thing that I'm concerned about him is I'm wondering if he's just resigned to the fact now. It seems like ever since he fought, his name escapes me, but the guy with the braid with the dreads from Canada, or I think he was of Haitian background.
He knocked out Ariola.
Right. I cannot think of his. Berman. Something Berman Stavern.
Berman Stavern.
Right. It seems like ever since he fought Stavern and tasted and felt that he could take his power and complete a fight, it seems like now he's just kind of resigned to just being a slugger. And I just think if he moves into fighting the Klitschko's of the world and maybe some of Fury, some of the top guys at heavyweight, I just don't know if I really think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, I don't think he matches up well against Klitschko. There's Joshua there. I don't know how he's going to do against the other top guys. He is, because the division's so weak, a top guy at this point. I'd like to see him fight Ariola or one of these other guys. They said Stavern he had some real illness during that fight, so you hear a lot of these things after guys lose. He didn't look good, that's for sure. Wilder's a good fighter, no doubt, but he's a late starter. He's been moved along slow. I think there's still a lot of questions. They put him in the ring in a lot of positions to be successful. When you're not put in that position, how do you do? He's got power, that's for sure. Seems like he can get caught pretty easy too.
Right. I don't know. Like I said, I just thought, now keeping the hands down and taking some of these shots from, as he's trying to rise up the ranks, I'm just not so sure that that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah.
But,
oh, you mean his actual fighting, the way he's actually conducting himself in the ring?
Right. Just to sense this.
Well, it's certainly dangerous in the heavyweight division. I mean, that if there's one division not to do it in, that's the one. I mean, we saw Lewis get knocked out by Rockman on one punch in a fight. He was a huge favorite, and it can happen to anybody, even when you're in the ring against some of these no-hopers.
Exactly.
They're all big dudes.
Exactly. I mean, you saw that guy. I can't remember the last fighter that Ariola faced. But did you see that slugfest that they had? I mean, I don't even know how his opponent made it through like 2 rounds. But some of these guys are just taking an exorbitant amount of punches, and it I guess it's part of the game. But before we get off of that, though, you just did have me think about one thing. Do you think that with this being in front of mainstream American or mainstream sports fans a lot more, do you think that it could result in some safety improvements to disallow some of these the beatings that we've seen? Do you think some of that could actually work in favor of, like I said, improving the safety of boxers?
Yeah, boy, you've seen them try to do this in the NFL, and it's really hurting the game. I don't think you can't make boxing a safe sport. Obviously, you know what these guys really need is they really need someone in their corner who cares about them as people and takes care of them. But most of these guys aren't going to quit in a fight. A high percentage of them won't. There was Mago a couple years ago who he went to a coma. He's never going to be the same. He needed somebody to look at that fight and go, this shouldn't go on. That's the biggest thing they can do to improve safety. Some people start talking about headgear and things like that at the pro level. I've read that could actually reduce safety. You don't often see a guy get hurt when he's knocked out big. Like a guy gets knocked cold is usually up in a couple minutes and he's fine. The guys who get hurt take 200 punches over 10 rounds. And headgear actually, gives you the ability to take more of those jarring shots over a longer time. So it really makes it less safe. I think you need refs who are willing to make good stoppages. I think you need, corners who stop guys who aren't afraid to take the loss, who don't keep thinking he's going to turn this around when he's clearly not going to turn it around.
Were you concerned that the danger that Julius Jackson was in this past weekend, or were you a little shocked at his corner's management of him during his time? He seemed to be. I thought the kid was. I mean, I feel like some of these younger fighters, when I see a fighter that doesn't know how to clinch when he's hurt, I get very scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's another way you can increase the safety of boxing is teach these guys some of these fundamentals. It seems like some of those things are going out the window. I mean, you get guys who don't know how to cut off the ring. You get guys who don't know to clinch. You get guys who get knocked down hard and jump up at one. Instead of taking some time to get their wits about them. So it's I don't know how it happens. I guess maybe they come up through younger or with gyms that aren't that great and they develop bad habits. But I think that's another thing you can do, right? You need to know how to get yourself out of trouble. And that's where a guy like we were talking about Wilder and how good can he be and what will he do? Well, what's going to happen when he gets in real serious trouble? He doesn't even know, and he probably, I'm just speculating. I hope he's not listening. I really don't want him mad at me. But, he probably doesn't know what to do if he really gets in trouble. Just as an example.
That's a great point. Well, look, that was just kind of some intro topics. I'm going to take a quick break, get in some